Yeah, when that be?
Recording in progress.
If everyone could go and find a seat, we can begin. Okay, Councillor Wright, would you lead us in the pledge? Please be aware that this meeting is both being audio and video recorded, and we do have some councillors that are remote, and I have to announce who they are. So remote, we have Councillor Malachy, Councillor Gentile, Councillor Kelly, and Councillor Danberg. It's nice to have an almost full house here tonight. So Vice President Lipoff, the Land Use Committee report, please.
Thank you, Madam President. The report starts on page 405 for our April 25th meeting. 130-23, Rostrum Nazar, Best Price Signs and Printing. Request to allow a freestanding sign at 1010 Chestnut Street. Approved 7-0. 113-23, Shauna Guerin and Robert Dunn, trustees of D&G Realty Trust, request to add 40 patio seats and to remove 6 parking stalls and to amend special permit 501-94 parens 2 at 344-346 Elliott Street, approved 8-0. 112-23, Paul Wong, request to further extend non-conforming FAR to allow an accessory building with a footprint exceeding 700 square feet and for a dormer within 3 feet of the intersecting wall at 20 Norwood Avenue, approved 8-0. 111-23, Adeline Elmius, requests to allow 4 single-family attached dwellings in 2 buildings to waive certain dimensional requirements and 1 parking stall at 77 Hartford Street, approved 8-0. With that, I'll move the report, but I do have a few public hearings to
Please
assign.
go ahead.
All of these public hearings are for May 16th. 141-23, Newton Wellesley Hospital, request to amend special permit 470-04 to allow existing shell space to be used for 24 inpatient beds at 2014 Washington Street. 142-23, Akinobu and Naoko Ito, petition for a special permit to further extend non-conforming FAR. 143-23, Kimberly Pagi Physical Therapy, request to amend special permit 276-08 to change from a non-conforming personal training facility to medical office at 552-564 Commonwealth Avenue. And the last one, 34-23, Yan Mei Lin, requests to exceed FAR to allow parking within 5 feet of the street at 50 Elmore Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crosley for the Land Use, for the Zoning and Planning Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The report is on page 406, or begins on page 406, with number 73-23, the appointment by Her Honor the Mayor of Joel Shames to the Auburndale Historic District Commission. This was approved 6-0, and his appointment is to expire on March 20, 2026. Next page, 227-22, is a request for an ordinance to regulate embodied carbon in new construction. We held and closed a public hearing on Monday, April 24th, and this was approved 6-0. And the other two items were held, and that concludes the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Counselor Noel for the Programs and Services Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The report begins on page 407. The first item to report out is item number 117-23, recommendation to approve the 2023 preliminary election date. That was approved 6-0. Item number 66-23, discussion and possible amendments regarding, this was a possible amendment regarding sustainable containers and packaging and single-use ordinance. That item was held. Item number 74-23, requesting a home rule petition. This was a discussion requesting a home rule petition so the city can create an ordinance to prohibit the purchase or application of anticoagulant rodenticides in Newton. This item was held, but a straw poll was taken, which came back affirmative, so that the docketers will be working with legal to draft an item on that. The next two items regarding our tree ordinance were held. I want to report an item out that we met on earlier that was recently approved by Finance. That was item number 110-23, a request to transfer $150,000 from the Law Department to full-time salaries. We approved that item 8-0. And I also want to ask for a suspension of the rules for a late file item.
If you could just tell us what that late filed item is, we can vote on it after that.
Certainly. Item number 163-23, it's a request to appropriate $250,000 for election equipment. Her Honor, the Mayor is requesting authorization to appropriate and expend the sum of $250,000 from the June 30th, 2022 certified free cash to an account number identified in the docket item, Clerk of the Council election equipment, to replace 32 current machines as well as one high-speed tabulator to address the increase in vote by mail processing.
Okay, so Counselor Noel has asked for suspension of the rules for a late filed item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Counselor Downs for Public Safety and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam President. There is no report, and Public Safety and Transportation will also not be meeting this week in order to allow members to attend budget hearings. However, I do have a late filed item for which I need a suspension of the rules.
Okay, if you could just tell us what that is.
This is for, this is 164-23 to appropriate $1.5 million for fire rescue overtime.
Okay, Counselor Downs has asked for suspension of the rules to accept a late filed item. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Thank you very much. Counselor Leary, the Public Facilities Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The report starts on page 408. The committee met on Wednesday, April 19th. The first item was 133-23. It's National Grid petition for a grant of location to install and maintain gas main on Parker Street along Oakdale, Woodcliff, and Kendall Road. And Public Facilities approved that 6-0. Item 118-23. This is the Department of Public Works requesting to provide an update on the Transportation Network Improvement Plan. Public Facilities approved that 6-0. The Albemarle Traffic Calming Project is on second call. And then we had also a reappointment, 135-23, the reappointment of Robert Hansko of Miller Road in Newton as a member of Design Review Committee for a term set to expire on December 31st, 2023, and Public Facilities approved that 7-0. And I believe I also have a late file item.
Okay, if you could tell us what it is.
That's appropriate $750,000 for the Newton Free Library's HVAC system.
Okay, Counselor Leary has asked for suspension of the rules for late filed item. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Counselor Grossman for the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The report begins on page 409, and the committee met on Monday, April 24th. The first item, 126-23, the appropriation of $1.15 million for the Franklin Elementary School, was approved 7-0. The next item, 139-23, acceptance of equipment through the MassDOT Safe Routes to School program, was also approved 7-0. Item 140-23, authorization to enter into a 5-year contract with a parking enforcement services vendor, was approved 7-0. Item 138-23, authorization to enter into a 5-year contract for investment management services for the John C. Chafin Fund, was approved 7-0. Item 110-23, request to transfer $150,000 from Law Department full-time salaries, was approved 7-0. And item 137-23, submittal of the ACFR and external audit reports, was approved 7-0. I have a few late filed items to speak about. The first one is item 160-23. That is on page 415, and that is Her Honor the Mayor requesting to transfer $21,950 for an online code management program. Do you want me to do all three, or just one at a time?
Let's do them all together.
Okay. The next is item 161-23, Her Honor the Mayor requesting acceptance of a $2,500 grant from the Mass Cultural Council. And the last is item 162-23, acceptance of a $15,830 grant from the Mass Cultural Council.
Okay, so Councilor Grossman has asked for suspension of the rules for 3 late filed items. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, there's one more thing. We have a request to refer item 158-23 regarding the use of non-recurring revenue in Newton to second call, as there's a request to refer that to a committee of the whole. I don't know if that requires a vote or just placing it on second call.
It's on second call, so we'll do that during second call.
Great. And with that, I move the report. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councilor Laredo for the Real Property Reuse Committee.
There is no report this evening, Madam President.
Thank you very much. So we can call the roll on the first call items.
Counselor Baker.
Aye.
Counselor Bowman.
Aye.
Counselor Crossley.
Aye.
Counselor Danberg.
Aye.
Counselor Downs.
Aye.
Counselor Gentile.
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg.
Aye.
Counselor Grossman.
Aye.
Counselor Humphrey.
Aye.
Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly. Counselor Kelly.
Not here, I don't think.
Well, I'll ask at the end. Counselor Krinsman.
Aye.
Counselor Laredo.
Aye.
Counselor Leary.
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
Aye.
Counselor Maliki.
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz. Counselor Noel.
Aye.
Counselor Norton.
She's absent.
Counselor Oliver.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
President Albright.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly. I see her. You're muted, Counselor Kelly. Thumbs up, so that is an aye. Motion carries 22 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent.
Thank you very much. And now we need a delegation to go and fetch the mayor. Councilor Bowman, could I ask you to lead a delegation with your neighbors, Councilor Oliver and Councilor Humphrey? So we have one member of the school committee here, and I think she's happy sitting where she is. But 2 members. Well, I tell you what, we'll do a suspension of the rules, ask for suspension of the rules to allow the school committee to join us if they want to. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You're welcome to join us. You're welcome to stay there as well. You want to? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol.
Good evening, everybody. To President Albright and Vice President Lipoff, to President Emeritus Baker, Chair Olszewski, members of the City Council and the School Committee, everyone here at City Hall or watching at home, good evening. I join you tonight to deliver the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget for the City of Newton and our supplemental capital improvement plan for the next 5 years. I do so filled with a deep sense of gratitude to be in a position to help guide the city I love. Together, we are navigating a difficult period. As a community, we have persevered through a multi-year pandemic. We are grappling with intractable societal issues, from housing affordability and inequality to climate change and frayed mental health. We are facing inflation and a looming recession. While this has not been easy, Newton has risen to the occasion time and time again. This month marks an important milestone for all of us. I am pleased that we can formally lift the City of Newton COVID-19 declaration of emergency on May 11th. We do so on the same day that President Biden and Governor Healy are declaring the end of the federal and state public emergencies. And although COVID-19 continues to circulate, we now have many ways to manage the virus. With that welcome news, we are focused on setting the city on a course for recovery and reinvestment. We have used our one-time pandemic funds to help so many and to jumpstart initiatives. However, we have so much more that we want to and need to do to continue to be the community of choice, generation after generation. As mayor, I manage our financial resources to preserve our ability to do 3 things simultaneously. First, move forward sustainability to make Newton greater, better, and more beautiful. We dedicate resources to provide excellent schools, first-rate public safety, better and safer streets, support for older residents and those that are struggling, outstanding services, beautiful green spaces, and vibrant villages. And we take action across a range of issues: housing, transportation, economic development, and climate resiliency, to keep moving forward. Second, fulfill promises made by prior mayors, city councilors, and school committee members, and put us on the path to fund our long-term financial obligations, including the $1 billion of unfunded pensions and retiree health care. Third, protect the city's financial strength and budgetary flexibility so we can face evolving risks and unpredictable financial conditions, such as pandemics, economic downturns, inflationary cycles, and dramatic weather events. My proposed budget, which is just over $500 million, is true to these three objectives. It includes $499.7 million in the operating budget, $64.7 million in enterprise funds for water, sewer, and stormwater services, and another $5.6 million in community preservation funds. This budget, perhaps no surprise, is the largest in Newton's history and funds the Newton Public Schools at historic levels. Yet, these historic investments come at a time of inflationary pressures and growing needs, forcing us to make hard decisions. Newton must balance its budget by law, with fiscal year 2024 being no exception. This proposed budget is also mindful of the decisions made by Newton voters 6 weeks ago on 3 override proposals. I proposed those overrides because I know additional funding is needed to achieve in full our shared goals. In Massachusetts, though, voters get to decide whether to increase our taxes, a proud democratic tradition that I fully support. As a community, we decided to move forward with 2 school buildings, but to hold off on additional funding for school and city operations. That decision has left us with a constrained budget, necessitating some uncomfortable choices. I have prioritized the Newton Public Schools, maintained city operations, continued building projects using the debt exclusion override funding and bonding, and ensured our long-term financial sustainability. It is important that we continue to fund immediate needs while simultaneously addressing our long-term liabilities and preserving our AAA bond rating. Let me turn first to the revenue side of our next fiscal year that begins July 1st. The city's revenues come overwhelmingly from one source, our property taxes. These account for 84% of our total revenues. My budget proposal is based on a 2.5% increase in the tax levy allowed under Prop 2.5. It also uses an additional 1.3% in property taxes from projected new growth and redevelopment. The other revenue sources, from state aid to motor vehicle excise taxes to licenses and permits paid to our Inspectional Services Department, thank you, John Lojak, for being here tonight, increased by $4.3 million. Altogether, this proposed budget is $19.7 million more than last year's. I'm pleased to report that the majority of our revenue streams impacted by the pandemic have rebounded to pre-pandemic levels. Revenues from medical and retail cannabis establishments, however, is weakening. Our first cannabis retailer, Garden Remedies, has been open more than 5 years, and their community impact fee requirement has expired. 2 new operators have opened, but with more limited sales. In addition, hotel room occupancy taxes are lower, with one of our 3 hotels, the Indigo, permanently closed. Let's turn next to the expenditures in the FY 2024 proposed budget. On the city side, with the hard work of many people in each department and the detailed scrutiny of our experienced Chief Financial Officer, Maureen Lemieux, We reviewed and analyzed every line item. Savings were found, efficiencies were made. As a result, we are maintaining the important municipal services and programs that we provide Newtonians. Let me talk in depth about the Newton Public Schools, which is by far our largest department and is effectively receiving the largest increase in the proposed budget. The school department has approximately 2,100 positions and all in accounts for 65% of our total expenditures. By way of reference, the other three large departments are police, fire, and public works utilities, with 209, 199, and 199 positions, respectively. It's in our DNA here in Newton that we care deeply about our children and invest heavily in education. As in all things, we must balance our ambitions for our school district with the financial reality we face as a city. Despite a record level of investment, NPS faces dual challenges. First, the operating override did not pass in March, which would have boosted the NPS budget by an additional $4.5 million. Second, NPS is facing increased costs, higher student needs, the ending of one-time pandemic funding, and a long-standing structural deficit. Therefore, I have taken 7 steps as we prepared this budget to provide additional sustainable funding to address these challenges. 1, we have strategically utilized $10 million of free cash to reduce required debt service for the Lincoln Elliott Elementary School project to free up operating budget capacity. This allowed me to increase the NPS appropriation by $600,000 beyond this year's originally anticipated 3.5% annual increase. 2, we have provided a bridge grant to the Newton Public Schools of $1.4 million from free cash to offset significant increased costs imposed by the state for out-of-district placements. 3, we have worked collaboratively with the Newton Retirement Board to increase the base pension on which retiree COLAs are calculated and extend our full funding date by 1 additional year to create a sustainable pathway to fully fund our pension system by August 2031. This collaboration, in turn, has created flexibility to fund the $23 million Horace Mann Elementary School addition and renovation. 4, we have restructured our health insurance plans to provide continued access to excellent health care while eliminating an outdated reimbursement plan for Medicare Part B. This results in $680,000 in savings for NPS for FY 2024 and another $680,000 for next year, FY 2025. 5, we have used free cash to pay NPS legal settlements totaling $580,000. 6, even without the operating override, we initially allocated a 3.73% increase in funding to the Newton Public Schools for an increase of $9.77 million over last year's FY 2023 NPS budget. This translated into a total FY 2024 NPS budget of $271.8 million. Last Tuesday, with my support, the school committee voted to move $3.1 million in NPS retiree healthcare costs out of this allocation and out of the NPS budget and over to the city. NPS retiree health care costs are currently increasing at a greater rate than city revenues, so this action relieves pressure on the NPS budget. My proposed budget tonight has the city administering this program, assuming the costs, and taking on the risks in support of the Newton Public Schools. And 7, tonight I am also announcing another step to support the Newton Public Schools. I am allocating $400,000 of ARPA funds to pay for summer maintenance projects across NPS's 23 buildings. The school committee voted just last Thursday to postpone funding these summer maintenance projects to minimize the impact on class size. This ARPA funding will allow these projects to be done now, and then next year, NPS can access additional funding from health insurance savings to permanently build these maintenance expenditures into the NPS budget. Many of these actions to provide additional funding to the Newton Public Schools require the support of the City Council. We look forward to working with our counselors and answering any questions starting the day after tomorrow at 8 a.m. at the Council's Committee of the Whole. Even with this additional funding, no one, including the leadership at NPS, the school committee, and me, feels great about the NPS budget. Yes, the superintendent's team has added 39 new positions for next year to provide special education programs, bolster curriculum development, and support teaching and learning. But despite the substantial increase in the NPS budget, other positions had to be eliminated. Altogether, out of the approximately 2,100 positions, NPS will have a net decrease of 40 next year. The reality is that the costs of NPS have been growing faster than city revenues, creating an unsustainable structural deficit. The school committee on which I sit faced difficult decisions and tough trade-offs. Over the last few weeks of working together, the school committee, the NPS administration, and I found savings, added and redeployed funding, and worked creatively to ensure none of our elementary class sizes are over 25 students, to keep the elementary strings program, for which so many of our students and families advocated so passionately, and to set aside $32,000 in the budget specifically for disability inclusion curriculum efforts. As you may know, the school committee voted 8-1 last Thursday on the $268.7 million budget for the Newton Public Schools that I bring forward tonight. As mayor, I will continue to prioritize the funding for educating our young people and for the Newton Public Schools. The dramatic financial impact on city revenues and expenses brought about by COVID-19 delayed two important school building projects: the Newton Early Childhood Program, NECP, at the former Horace Mann, and the new Lincoln Elementary School relocating to 150 Jackson Road. I'm grateful that I had ARPA funds available so both projects could resume. NECP moved to their new home in January. Construction begins on the new Lincoln Elliott this fall, with students moving in September 2025. I am so pleased that Newton's voters approved the bonding in March to replace Countryside, and that the MSBA will contribute a third of the $61 million in project costs. Students will be in the new Countryside 4 years from now. Voters also said yes to a new or renovated Franklin Elementary School, and as I just mentioned, we found a creative way to fund the Horace Mann addition renovation. These new and renovated schools are long overdue, and they will be terrific additions to neighborhoods, families, students, and educators for decades to come. Ensuring academic excellence and educational equity in our Newton Public Schools is a team effort involving people from all sorts of city departments. School nurses, the cost of the Interface Mental Health and Wellness Referral Service, school crossing guards, water and sewer costs, the oversight of major school building projects, the bonding costs of the associated debt for school buildings are all embedded in the municipal rather than the school budget. And starting this year, the healthcare costs of NPS retirees will also be in the municipal budget. Altogether, the NPS budget for FY 2024 of the $268.7 million is supplemented by over $40 million over on the municipal operating budget. Let's shift now to city operations and the municipal budget. While we're investing in our children's education, we're also investing in services for an even larger and faster growing group, our older residents. In our senior services department, our goal is to improve and expand the ways in which our elders can participate in community life. That is why we are breaking ground this fall on the Newton Center for Active Living, or NewCal. This budget also brings on a deputy director at the end of the fiscal year to help prepare for the opening of NewCal in 2024 and the department's next exciting chapter. All of us are proud of Newton's record as a safe community. This budget invests in our police and fire departments for training, technology, equipment, vehicles, and facilities, as well as the wellness and safety of our officers and firefighters. With this budget, we're going to maintain high levels of investments in our streets and sidewalks. They sure do need it. Commissioner McGonigal's DPW staff are getting Waverly and Ward. I'm looking at our Ward 7 counselors. Waverly and Ward, Homer, Lowell, and the ComAv carriageway paved this year, among others, and a lot of residential streets. We will install more rectangular rapid flashing beacons. We will focus on more sidewalks and accessibility ramps. We will begin construction of Petty Square upgrades in Upper Falls. We are also looking closely at how to adapt another aspect of transportation and mobility, Newton in Motion, or NUMO, our shared ride service. Overall, it's been highly successful, helping older residents, teenagers, employees, and others with affordable, safe, convenient, and environmentally sensitive transportation. But NUMO is expensive to operate. We have level funded the senior portion of NUMO with $275,000 since its inception, and that's not going to change. We've also been creative and tenacious in securing the rest of the costs from state and regional grants, and to a lesser degree from developers who pay to offset their traffic impacts. However, the state and regional grants are increasingly difficult to secure. We're rethinking NUMO, including revisions to FEERS and the rebidding of the service. As we do so, we stand and remain committed to helping older residents have access to reliable and affordable transportation. While not formally part of our budget submission tonight, I want everyone to know that Congressman Auchincloss, Senator Cream, and Representative Khan and I, as well as a slew of city councilors, are all in advocating for the funding to reconstruct all 3 of our commuter rail stations to make them accessible and designed to allow frequent service. Earlier today, I attended a meeting with Secretary of Transportation Fiandaca and Philip Eng, General Manager of the MBTA, and underscored the urgency and importance of providing funding for these stations. I'm going to go off script just for 1 minute right now. At the meeting with the Secretary and the General Manager, they spent a lot of time talking about the complete closure of the Sumner Tunnel for 2 months, July and August, both this summer and next. Start making your travel plans now. Going back on script. To chart Newton's future thoughtfully, this budget fully supports our planning department. Planners will continue working closely with city councilors on updating our village center zoning, determining the right mix of housing and commercial, and bringing the city into compliance with the Commonwealth's new MBTA communities law. We are also investing in proactive planning with the help of residents and businesses for the Newton Highlands Village Center, a first ever bike and pedestrian master plan, a re-envisioned section of Washington Street, and revised zoning for the California Street manufacturing area in Nonantum. So much of what we do as a city government is meant to pass on an even better Newton to those who come after us. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that. Our sustainability team are here, along with experts from the community, to help people figure out how to insulate buildings, install heat pumps and solar panels, compost, and switch to electric vehicles. We're continuing our best in the state Newton Power Choice with 84% renewables, adding more solar on roofs and in parking lots, and weaning municipal and school buildings off fossil fuels. We're working with the City Council and the business sector as one of the 10 communities who will pilot fossil fuel-free new construction. We are also initiating a significant review of trash and recycling during FY 2024. A new collection and disposal contract is approaching. We face growing environmental, operational, and financial pressures to reduce solid waste and increase recycling and composting. Parks, recreation, and culture have been a consistent priority of my administration. A new Gath Pool complex will open next summer, that's 2024, with 2 pools and a splash pad. We are also investing over at Crystal Lake, our beautiful Newton Center gem. We will be activating a 500-seat auditorium when we open the new home for Lincoln Elliott. The 3 athletic field renovation projects will greatly improve the Burr School, McGrath, and Albemarle fields. And with this budget, Commissioner Banks's team will be making improvements to playgrounds, tennis courts, and park buildings, adding a new community garden, while offering a wide array of affordable programs and artistic opportunities. Building community means being there for everyone, especially our most vulnerable. That's why our human services and housing teams are moving forward with ARPA funding on an economic stability and mobility program for vulnerable families. We're well on our way to creating 43 apartments at affordable rents at the West Newton Armory. With the help of the City Council, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Community Preservation Committee, and the Affordable Housing Trust, we're building and preserving affordable housing in meaningful numbers. We will also likely be welcoming 59 families facing homelessness this fall to 399 Grove Street. And we have heard from so many Newtonians that want to help. The engine of Newton City government is the dedicated staff who work every way to deliver the services that make Newton so special. We will invest in our most valuable asset, our employees, through fair wages and benefits, good working conditions, training, and professional development. Salaries, compensation, and benefits for the approximately 915 full-time and many part-time municipal employees comprise 74% of the municipal department budgets. Most of the full-time employees, 83%, are members of a union and are covered by collective bargaining agreements. We have successfully settled all but one contract through the current fiscal year, with most remaining in effect through the end of next fiscal year, FY 2024. We look forward to collaborative discussions that result in fair agreements, fair to our employees and taxpayers alike, and that maintain parity with the growth in our revenues. That is equally true for the school committee. All 4 NPS union agreements are up in a few months. Let me turn to the use of 2 sources of significant one-time revenues. By far the largest pandemic package helping the City of Newton is the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, commonly known as ARPA. The City of Newton has received approximately $63.6 million ARPA dollars, and ARPA allowed us to improve the ventilation systems in every school building. We bought iPads and Chromebooks for students. We helped businesses, restaurants, and nonprofits. We supported people who were struggling financially. We paved roads and enhanced village centers. We improved parks. We rebuilt the children's room at the library. With the budget submittal tonight, I am simultaneously allocating the remaining $4.9 million of ARPA funding. These investments include $2 million for road paving and another $2.1 million for a variety of infrastructure repairs and improvements. Here's just a sampling. The NPS summer maintenance projects, a second synthetic turf field for Newton North High School at Albemarle, so South and North each have 2. The roof of the Underwood Elementary School, a second pedestrian bridge at Albemarle, and repairs to the Albemarle Fieldhouse, the former Newton Corner Library in Farlow Park, the Pellegrini Rec Center, the Library Plaza, the Crystal Lake Bathhouse and Parking Lot, and more. Let me turn next to free cash. Free cash, a second major source this year of one-time revenues. Free cash, in layperson's terms, is the remaining unspent, unrestricted funds from operations from a previous fiscal year. This year's certified free cash of $28.8 million is significantly higher than in most years due to unexpected revenue from a contested property value case involving Eversource, that was $8 million, and an early payment in lieu of taxes from a nonprofit, that was $2.2 million. This year, free cash will help us in so many ways. Highlights include paying in part for the new Lincoln Elliott and supporting NPS operations, replacing the 2 synthetic turf fields at Newton South and the 1 at Newton North, providing a bridge grant to NPS for out-of-district tuitions, buying large vehicles for DPW, construction equipment, a fire engine, sidewalk plows, and police cruisers, replacing the Newton Free Library's HVAC system, purchasing new election equipment, and upgrading the police department's computer and IT systems. I'm so pleased we can make these collective investments that support our shared goals. Our fiscal discipline continues to serve us well as we continue to earn a AAA credit rating from Moody's. A noteworthy aspect of this budget is that it initiates a 3-year plan to increase Newton's rainy day stabilization fund to equal 6% of our annual operating budget, an increase from the current 5%, to provide funding for contingencies, and to be responsive to Moody's new algorithm that assesses the financial strength and resiliency of a municipality. I want to give a shout out to Councilor Gentile, who worked so collaboratively with Mayor Warren a decade ago to get us to the 5%. And I look forward to working with Councilor Grossman, Chair of the Finance Committee, as we move up to 6%. Let me close by offering my thanks not only to all of you who are here in the chamber tonight, but to everyone who is living, working, and investing in our good city. I'm grateful to Maureen Lemieux, our talented CFO, Jonathan Yo, our hardworking COO, and our world-class department heads and their staffs for their excellent work, not just creating this proposed budget, but also for their good work day in and day out in serving our community. I thank Perry Rosenfield and Connor Roach. Would the two of you give a wave? Some people may not know you. They are unsung heroes. As our financial analysts, they have competently analyzed each line item in the budget and created almost innumerable Excel spreadsheets. I also want to thank 4 people in my office who worked tirelessly to support me and all of you: Ellen Ishkanian, Sam Nyman, Hattie Kerwin-Derrick, and Amalia Timbers. Thank you for everything. All of us need to give a huge thank you to Interim Superintendent of the Newton Public Schools, Kathy Smith. Dr. Smith has been an extraordinary leader, bringing wisdom, steadiness, and empathy to families and faculty. In a difficult year with budget pressures, a superintendent search, intense questions about curriculum, pedagogy, equity, academic excellence, and more, Dr. Smith helped us find true north. And even as we look forward to welcoming Dr. Anna Nolan, our incoming superintendent, we offer our thanks to Kathy. I want to add one last thank you. For 18 years, we have been so well served by a person of integrity, deep knowledge, judgment, and grit. Coming into Newton on the heels of 5 commissioners serving in the course of 6 years, our Commissioner of Inspectional Services, John Lojek, transformed our Inspectional Services Department into a professional, well-oiled machine. Commissioner Lojek has decided to retire and spend more time with his beloved wife, Carla, his 4 children and 5 grandchildren. He leaves in July with a special feather in his cap, having transformed the way we do business by first envisioning and then implementing an innovative permitting and management information system, NewGov. Godspeed, John, and could I ask him to stand up for a second? Thank you, John. Newton is a wonderful community, and I am confident with commitment, collaboration, creativity, and caring, we will thoughtfully execute our responsibilities and come through these times stronger and better. I thank you, I say good night, and I say, go Celtics. Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, then, I guess now it's time to get back to work. Let's see, we left off. We have second call for 121-23. That's a public facilities element. Would you give us the report, Councilor Leary?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd be happy to give you the report from Public Facilities. We had a very robust discussion last Wednesday about a very important traffic calming plan that involves Albemarle, Brookside, and Craft Street. So one of the reasons why it is on second call, I know Councilor Laredo had requested it, but during our discussion in committee, we thought it was very important that the whole city council knew more about it, so we wanted to open the floor up for discussion. It's been an ongoing item for over a year. I know there was, starting in March of 2022, it's involved a lot of stakeholders, and today you probably saw that we received letters from Mike Halley from TAG, from Safe Routes to School, and Friends of Albemarle. And the scope of the project, one of the big things about it is it's going to improve it's going to create a new bike lane, and that's really important for kids who are going to be biking to school or to practice. And that's going to come from Washington Street down Brookside, down Albemarle Road, and go all the way to the Charles River Path. It's also going to include, and by the way, this project is all going to be basically paint and plastic. It's really a pilot that can be changed as we go along. And it's going to, the traffic calming measures will include mostly around public pedestrian and bike safety. It will improve sight lines, increase safety. reduce traffic speeds, reduce conflicts, and as I mentioned, add bike lanes. One of the things that it includes is head and angle parking along most of Albemarle. And the committee had some questions about that. You might remember we did have a similar project along when the library parking lot was being replaced on Homer Street, where we had the back-in, head-in parking. And we did receive some negative comment about that, and I think a lot of it is because it's a pretty new thing for people, and any new change is sometimes a little more difficult to get used to. But we did get a lot of information in our packet, and I hope you had a chance to go through it, because it gave us a lot of data about how the safety is much improved with this head-in angle parking, and particularly in this location, which, as everyone in this room and on the screen knows, is a very busy area with schools, park activities, the pool, which is going to be expanded, and it's the new home of the early childhood education as well. So there's a lot of children, a lot of vulnerable users here. So what I learned from this project, really the overall goal is safety for our most vulnerable users, improved bike lanes, and to reduce conflicts between vehicles. It is a high crash area, and I myself have observed in the mornings how busy and chaotic it can be there. There's already some improvement when they closed off the north end of Albemarle. That actually reduced parking accidents or crashes significantly. So I hope that my colleagues had a chance to look through all the information. I think this is a very important project that deserves our approval tonight. And keep in mind that if there's any issues that come up, as I said, it is a pilot. This is all going to be paint and poles and plastic, including speed humps. So we can always make changes as we need to as we go along. So I'm happy to answer any questions. There's also the counselors from wards 2 and 3 have also been attending the meetings and also are very knowledgeable about this project as well. So I hope that we can approve it tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Leary, could you give us the vote?
Yes, it was 4 in favor and 3 abstentions. And the abstentions were around some concerns about the parking and the data. And also, we felt it was important for the whole council to have to be able to get more information about this item.
Thank you very much. Councilor Laredo, you put this on second call.
I did, Madam President, and thank you, Chair Leary, for your very thorough presentation as to what transpired. I want to be very clear at the outset. I think this is an excellent proposal, and I fully support it. I think it's going to improve safety. It's going to improve safety for pedestrians. It's going to improve safety for cyclists. It's going to improve safety for drivers. And clearly that intersection needs work. I'm also mindful of the fact that this is essentially a long-term trial, and so if things don't work out, we have an opportunity to change. But I have to say that I was troubled by the way the back-end angular parking was presented to us in the discussion we had around it. And that's the issue that I would like to hear my colleagues' views on, because I am, for one, am not persuaded that that's necessarily the best way to go. You'll all recall that maybe a year or so ago, the department came to us and wanted to try back-end parking along Homer Street. And that was going to be a specific trial to see how that worked out. And from what I understand, the results were people were pretty unhappy about it. There were a lot of complaints. And when we asked the transportation folks about that, the response was, well, you know, we only hear from the complaining people, and people park there, and so therefore it's fine, and we're going to continue to do it because we think it's better. Well, I was troubled by that response Because it seems to me if you're going to try to draw data one way or the other, and you're getting complaints, you can't just ignore those complaints. Now, you might do some kind of a study, you might try to really ferret out what people's true attitudes are. I'm not suggesting that we should ever be a complaint-driven city, because that's, you only get the folks who are often unhappy about something who will notify you. But I heard from my colleagues from Ward 3 and I heard from Ward 2 that they had expressed concerns about it. Those seem to not have been significant attention given to them. And I'll add, I actually went back and read some of the backup material as well. There are only a very few places in the country that have actually done this. AAA was one of the sources touted. They had some person there who said, well, we think it can be safer. But I didn't see the groundswell of support for that. And I'll be honest, I use some what I consider common sense. You're going to have a lot of teenagers driving to that particular location. And I think for a fairly new drivers, backing into a parking space like that is difficult. And I think it's easier just from common sense experience to drive in frontwards. Now, again, you can train people over time perhaps to do different, but I'll leave it at that. I mean, for me at least, and I'll want to hear from Councilors Gentile and Kelly, I'm perfectly willing to abide by whatever the consensus of this group is. As I said before, I want us to pass something this evening, but I thought it was important to have a robust discussion within constraints. I don't think we have to debate every piece of minutia about angle parking, but I do want to hear from my colleagues, and I'll be listening eagerly to what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see, do we have any? Councillor Maliki? Councillor Maliki.
Thank you, Madam President. And we had I was able to listen to the public facilities meeting from the other night, and and thank you to the people who abstained, wanting to hear from the Ward 2 and Ward 3 councilors. I think, like a lot of people, I think most of this project is very good, but I do have concerns about the back in, head out parking. It's good that the spaces are now 9 feet wide. That's good, but it remains more difficult to back into a tight space than back out of a tight space. And during one of the series of meetings that we had on this project, I had asked a question that Councilor Gentile asked and never got an answer to at the public facilities meeting. What type of record do we have of accidents now that cause us to think the current situation is unsafe? And neither of us got an answer on, do we have cars backing out, hitting bicyclists or whatever now? So I'm wondering, I'm happy that this is just a trial with regular paint. And if I'm sympathetic to voting for it because it is a trial and it's kind of the only way to see if the promises are that it will be great are going to be fulfilled. But I'm curious, I don't know what the measurement of success is going to be, given that, as was just mentioned, the trial at Homer Street was viewed differently by the traffic people versus the citizens, as far as we know. And I just don't know are we going to have another situation where after a year or a year and a half or two of trial of this, is the administration going to say, yep, it's a success, despite what the public may think? So that's my concern. And I hope at some point we will get a kind of a description of what will be used to judge whether the trial is a success or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Gentile.
Thank you, Madam President. I was one of the 3 people that did not vote yea or nay on this at the at public facilities. I do plan on supporting it tonight. And the main reason for that is, as folks have pointed out, this is, quote, a trial. And if some aspect of the trial is not working well, my faith and my hope is that we won't wait too long before we change it. Now, as I'm glad that Council Maliki brought up that I had raised an issue about getting more information on accidents, whether they be vehicle accidents or pedestrian accidents or bike and vehicle. I don't want to hold this up tonight, but I also want that information. We should have that information. And I'm asking that in good faith that we get a report from our transportation director by the end of this week so that we have something to go off on when we want to try and, or work with when we want to try and figure out if the trial has been successful. And primarily my reservations were around the back end angle parking. And I want to make sure that there's a distinguish. I realize that at both ends of the area that we're talking about, and primarily I'm talking about Albemarle Road and Craft Street, not so much at Watertown. I don't think that that is as troublesome an area, but I think that any issues that have been raised are primarily in those 2 ends of the road. What so I'm curious about, you know, the statistics there, but I also want to know or ask that we break out the stretch of road between those 2 intersections. My sense is, and this is just, you know, from being there, going there for many, many years as a kid myself to, you know, a parent, coach, whatever, you know, over the years, that for all the activity that exists at the fields and the pool, that it's been a relatively safe area over the years. Now, that might be a mistake on my part. And if it is, I'd like to know about it. And so again, I'm going to be real clear. We asked for this already. And I'm asking again that by the end of the week, we get some detailed traffic accident information on both ends of this stretch of road, but also, you know, any issues, problems, accidents that have occurred, you know, in between of those 2 intersections. Because when we talk about safety, I mean, that's the most important area because that's where the kids are. So again, I will vote for this tonight. You know, a trial is obviously it's intended to try something out, and I have no problem with us trying out this new way of parking. But again, please, if we could get that report, if the president and the chair of public facilities could insist and help on getting it, that would be appreciated, especially since the other option would be to hold this up and wait to get the report.
Counselor Gentile, you need to ask for more time.
30 seconds.
Okay, Counselor Gentile has asked for 30 seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Please go ahead.
But in the presentation the other night, it was made clear that we're bumping up against the timeline and trying to get this work done, you know, this summer, and I don't want to hold that up. So in the spirit of cooperation, you know, I'm not going to hold it up. I'm going to vote for it, and I ask that we get the information that's been requested on accidents. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Counselor Crosley.
I'm going to defer to Counselor Leary first, who I had her hand up, maybe to answer that question.
Counselor Leary?
Thank you, Madam President. And I want to assure Councilor Gentile that I did get some information late today, which I can speak of, but will absolutely get you more detailed information in writing, hopefully a spreadsheet, so that you can look at that. And I think it is really important that we do look at the data, because we do want to compare the improvements from now and look at them again in another year or so. So what I did get was, in August 2020, they closed the east side of Albemarle Road northbound, that's between Crafts and North Street. And in that 3-year period from 2018 to 2020, there were 30 crashes, an average of 10 per year. After closing this portion of Albemarle Road in 21 and 22, there were a total of 13 crashes, an average of 6.5 per year, 5 in 21, 8 in 22, 1 to date in 23. And of the 9 most recent crashes from January 22 through February 23, there was 4 sightline issues, a crash with a biker with no injury, 2 rear ends, both involved westbound vehicles on Crafts, 2 distracted driving, both single vehicle incidents, 11/18/22 eastbound vehicles left road and went into the Cheesecake Brook, and 12/9/22 eastbound vehicle left the road, and I guess it was a stolen vehicle. So that's some information I did get late today, but I will get it to you in a more organized way. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Counselor Crosley.
Thank you. Perhaps I don't need to make a big speech here. I supported this project in public facilities. As you heard the vote, most of us did. Yes, it's a pilot, but the 3 letters we got today, I think, say to me, they are folks who, the Friends of Albemarle, the chair of the Transportation Advisory Group, and Safe Routes to School. Particularly the latter 2 are folks who are focused on this kind of material all of the time. At least one of them has children at a nearby school, and many people from all over the city use Albemarle Park. They're observing what's really happening at this site day in and day out. Mr. Halley actually sent us a video, if you get a chance to watch it. It's worthwhile. It's a fast, double speed, what happens when kids get out of school and the buses double park and the cars are stuck, or they're trying to go through, or they're trying to move into each other, or they're backing out into each other. It's pretty frightening. So if you weren't convinced before, that video and also a picture showing someone ignoring the stop sign that the bus had out and going through the crosswalk at that moment anyway, convinced me that this work is very important. I was convinced before, but also that it's a very dangerous place. One point on the head out back in angle parking, I said this in committee, I remembered encountering this in Colorado. Councilor Bowman remembered for me that was in Boulder, because I wasn't sure which city it was. And we were new to the city, and we used it, and everybody was doing it. It seems to me that we should not be trying to micromanage a design that's coming from professionals. Yes, let's try it. Let's see how it works. I bet young people are going to learn it faster than some of us who are less used to it and been driving for a long time, but I'll wager that with Councilor Laredo. Anyway, I'm not afraid of a new idea. I hope everybody is going to support this pilot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, President Albright. I have been following this project for, I think a little over a year now, and I think it's a good project. There are some good things in this. It's going to slow down the cars that drive down Albemarle Road in each direction along Cheesecake Brook. It's going to be safer for bikes. There's going to be flex posts, and there's going to be painted bike lanes. There's going to be some bump outs. There's going to be some signs. I think these are all good things. I guess the problem that I have with this project is the back-in angled parking. We tried it earlier, maybe it was 2 years ago, 2 years ago, over here on Homer Street. It didn't really work out, as folks complained. They didn't like it, and I think that's going to happen again with this project. Yeah, I understand it's a trial, and the parking lines, they're going to be paint. You can easily paint them over and change them and angle them the other way so that it will be head-in if it doesn't work out. That I understand, but I'm not convinced, at least right now, I am not convinced, based upon what I heard from city staff and the reasons that they provided, that it's going to drastically improve pedestrian safety, bike safety, along that stretch of Albemarle Road in between Craft Street and Watertown Street. That's all I'm talking about right now, in between Craft Street and Watertown Street, where we have the Gaff Pool and the soccer fields and the baseball fields. It is that stretch of road that I am not convinced back-in angled parking is going to work, or essentially is going to make it safer. I did ask Isaac Prezant. Is Prezant how you pronounce his last name?
Yeah. Yes.
That is how you pronounce his last name. Great guy, by the way. I think we all have emailed Isaac, and he gets back to you right away. So I asked him for the crash data for that stretch of Albemarle Road in between Watertown and Craft Street. And I asked for it for the 3 years, 2019 to 2021. 3 crashes. June 2019, October 2019, August 2021. We had one angle crash, single vehicle crash, single vehicle crash. That's 3 crashes in a 3-year stretch. I asked for the crash data from 2016 to 2018. I didn't ask for 2020 just because those fields were probably closed due to COVID-19. In those 3 years from 2016 to 2018, January 2017, September 2017, December 2018, we had a side swipe, no injury, side swipe, same direction, cyclists involved, no injury, and an angled parking, injuries not reported. So in the 6 years that I asked for, I got 6 crashes.
Councilor Lucas, you need to ask for more time.
Oh, I need to ask for more time? Wow, that was quick. 1 minute, please.
Councilor Lucas would like another minute. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? Please go ahead.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm not convinced the back-in angled parking is going to work. I guess I'll leave it at that for now. But I will support the pilot. But I do want to see the data. If the pilot is approved and implemented, I guess later this year, I do want to look at the data, and I think that we should get updates from city staff every quarter, maybe half year, just to see where we are in terms of crashes and if what they expect to see is actually happening. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Oliver is next.
Thank you, Madam President. Am I on here? Can't hear myself. Great. So I intend to support this as a pilot. I will also echo some of the things that I've heard here this evening. Sorry. Councilor Laredo made an interesting point that I experienced, I think it was last spring, when we were invited out to test drive and do the do the back-in parking ourselves, I had made several comments, concerns about how some of the arrangements were being set up for the pilot. None of my comments were addressed. I felt like I was fairly much dismissed. However, it is a pilot. I am game to see the results. One thing that I also heard from Councillor Maliki, however, that we shouldn't be waiting for. Proper test design requires that we define what success looks like before we execute a pilot. Otherwise, we might not be measuring the things that indicate what success looks like. These are just basic things that I also requested about a year ago and I still do not see. So I'm going to ask for that again to be presented or to be included. I don't think we all need to review it and nitpick it. I agree with Councillor Crossley. We have a group of experts here who we should be paying attention to. However, I do want us as a group to understand that as a pilot, sometimes these things have to be able to fail, like Homer Street did. It didn't work. It didn't achieve the results. It got a lot of negative feedback. Agreed? I mean, sometimes pilots are worth testing, but they don't always succeed. It's important that we accept the fact that maybe this might not work as well, as much as we want the safety improvements like Councillor Lucas was talking about, as well as, you know, I live probably 4 blocks from this intersection. I would love to see this bike lane succeed here. I hope it does, and I'm planning again on supporting this because it is a pilot. I'm concerned, I have my own concerns about how we're going to be backing up traffic at Kraft and Albee on the northbound side, but we'll see. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wright?
Thank you, President. My kids both went today, so I spent a lot of time there, and I ride my bike on this street 3 or 4 times a week. Just today I was going down it. Overall, I support what we're trying to do here, and I'm glad this is a trial pilot. I think one of the biggest safety issues is moving that bike lane next to Cheesecake Brook instead of right along the parked cars, no matter which direction they're pointing. I think that'll make it a lot safer. I do have some concerns over the angle rear parking. I also have some concerns of, I think Councillor Kelly brought this up in the meeting, is the angled parking. They're using 2 different angles, I think 40 degrees and 60 degrees, and I think we should have one. I mean, people are going to have problems as it is, and now if you're going to have different angles, I think it's going to make it more difficult. So I would like that to be verified before they start spraying in that they would be all the same angle, and if not, maybe a reason why we can't do that. I do have some concerns with the reduction of parking. I think it was like 23 spots or something like that. And also what Councillor Oliver brought up, which I brought up in our meetings that we've had with the group, is there's not going to be that right turn when you go northbound on Albemarle, right turn onto Kraft, that separate lane. You're going to sit behind the car. That takes forever to make that left, and there's going to be a lot of backups. It's going to be interesting, so this is good that it's a pilot, and what I see what they have on there, it would be very easy to open it up if it gets too difficult. But I am supporting it tonight, but I do have some concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I just want to take a step back and remind people why this project was proposed. This project was proposed coming out of the Washington Street Vision Plan. There was a request to have protected bike lanes along Washington Street and to make several connections along Washington Street to the river to enable people to move, to be able to bike to Boston and just make better connections through the region. When an opportunity came up to apply for a grant, I was among the people who encouraged Nicole Friedman to consider the Albemarle Road, this connection, as a grant. It's actually been more than 2 years that we've been working on this. It was held up a little bit because of the construction of NECP, that they wanted to get that done before we made the final changes for this, which is why we're at the timeline that we're at. I appreciate people who want to re-engineer things at this point, changing the angles from 45 to 60 and having them match. It's all about the width of the road. It was been extensively studied. We looked at an option of having the bike lane along the sidewalk, a parking protected bike lane, for a number of reasons. That was discarded as not a possible solution. Could be a long-term solution when this road is reconstructed, but given that it's a paint and flex post, putting it against the sidewalk wouldn't keep cars from just driving into the bike lane. So we decided that the best option was to be against the river. And I know a little bit about biking. I do thousands of miles across the city every year. Albemarle is not one of my favorite roads to go down because you're always at risk of somebody, and usually a very large vehicle, backing out of the space into you, which is one of the reasons I don't generally choose it as my way when I'm connecting from Washington Street to the river. This will improve it, but the reason that the back and angled parking is so critical in this point is that the driver will always be facing the bike lane when they pull in and pull out. If the bike lane were raised and protected, that would be less of an issue, but that's not the situation we have here. I also say that I don't think this is a project, it's a project to improve the safety for the pedestrians, the safer crossings along Albemarle, at the bridge, at Craft Street, at Watertown Street, even at Brookside will have an improvement with Washington Street. But when it comes to bike safety, this is a project about making people safer. And safety and making people feel safer is critical if we are going to get more people biking. I will remind everybody that we have a climate action plan, and if we are going to make real progress, transportation is our largest sector and it's growing. And if we're going to make progress on that, we have to give people viable options to do some of their trips outside of a car. And developing routes like this that feel safer to people, those 60% of people who would like to bike, but don't feel safe with the current conditions, these are the types of improvements that will make a significant difference in the number. So,
Councilor Bowman, you need to ask for more time.
just 30 seconds left.
Councilor Bowman would like another 30 seconds. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So, yes, I would like us to not wait until somebody's backed into, a child is hit by a car or a bicyclist is run over, and instead move forward with creating a safer Albemarle, safer connections, we're working on the bike and pedestrian master plan, and I would hope that in the input we would get that this is a critical element. So I hope my colleagues who are concerned about this will take that in consideration and vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kalis, do you want to speak or no? No, okay. Councilor Downs.
This on? Thank you, Madam President. I will be brief. I hear my colleagues' concerns. I think it's valid to have a form of measurement as to whether the pilot is working. The metrics, however, I would suggest are not driver inconvenience, but children's safety. That video that Councilor Crossley mentioned was one of the reasons I think we got the grant for this stretch of road, because it's all about the kids and how they're coming in and out. And it's a bit hair-raising when you think that that happens every day, this scrum of children and cars, and sometimes not very considerate, very hasty drivers. I think our number one consideration in this has to be how the school kids are coming in and out of school and making those connections, and whether the way that we are parking is not so much convenient for us, but safe for the children who are using the road. And I hope you support this. I will.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I'm hoping I can be heard now. I've been having a lot of Wi-Fi and audio problems tonight. Can you hear me fine there?
Yes, we can.
Yay. A lot of good points have already been raised, and I'll just explain that the reason I did abstain in public facilities is I particularly wanted to hear from the other councilors from wards 2 and 3. As somebody said, we have been involved in this all along, and some of the councilors from Ward 1 also. And I was the only one there from public facilities to speak from those wards. So I'm interested to hear from all the rest of you. And I've heard good comments. To repeat some of the important things, I'll say I very much respect and agree with the Safe Routes to Schools people's goals. And I think safety should come first, and also TAG. However, I just would like to let all of you know that I heard from residents from nearby streets, Proctor, Maynard, Mossman, Crafts, Albemarle, Watertown, Brookside, and every single one of them has been opposed and concerned about this and haven't felt like they could speak up. So I'm coming from sort of that perspective too. And I know that it's really our job as counselors to do the right thing, no matter what we hear from our neighbors and constituents, but the concerns over the difficulty of learning this new back end at different angles of different degrees, learning that isn't so much that it's going to be an inconvenience, but it may actually be a safety problem. Whether you're an adult with a full car of kids or a coach with lots of athletes and bags of equipment, or whether you're a teenage driver, as Councilor Laredo mentioned, I do think this is going to be difficult, and it may lead to problems and accidents and injuries in people. I agree that facing out certainly seems like a better idea, but again, this has really not been tested in too many places aside from Boulder that I'm aware of. Just a couple of other points I really want to make is that there's no doubt that there is a big, dangerous traffic problem, intersection problem at Crafts and Albemarle, but that is not part of the scope of this project. That's being handled separately. And my only criticism with that is that the funding's not going to come forward for a couple of years. And I do hope we can move that up. That is a very problematic intersection, but it is not within the scope of this proposal. Another thing that we mentioned that we were concerned about when we were participating in these meetings, and I will say somebody else mentioned it, I think it was Councilor Over, we felt that most of our comments were ignored. They did widen the parking spaces to make them be standard size, which is a good thing. And I'm glad that was at least one point that they listened to, but it's a narrow roadway. It's 11 feet wide, and it's, you know, it has to be that way between the sidewalk and the brook, but that means that the bike path, the bike lane itself is narrower than ideal. And for cars to be having to swing and back into these spaces, and again, I'm thinking about an Escalade or a pickup truck or an oversized SUV of families, it is not unimaginable that those cars will swing into the bike lane or the buffer lane of the bike lane. And that is a safety problem for the bicyclists. So that is another thing that some of us who have been following this have been concerned about. So again, I think that saying it's a matter of convenience over safety is a skewed way at looking at it. The other thing that most of the residents on all these streets I listed who have been in touch with me and others is the loss of the parking. And it's not that, like, I'll say for me, I understand that we want to reduce parking, but in this area, with all the games that happened at Fessenden, with the reconfiguration of the athletic fields, with the redesign and new construction going to happen at Gath Pool, and with the early childhood program, it's a very busy area. And to be losing 23 parking spaces from the current situation, much less not adding them. And I know some people say there's a 5-minute walk shed, but
Councillor Kelly, you need to
Yes.
ask for more time.
Could I please have 30 more seconds?
Councillor Kelly would like 30 more seconds. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Please go ahead.
I hope I use less than 30 seconds. Again, I'd like to support what others have mentioned, that we really need the data, at least as a measurable baseline. And though I think that there are a lot of good things with this project, and I suspect it will pass tonight, I will not be voting in favor of it. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. And Councillor Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam President. I have to admit, some of the things that I've heard seem a little bit perplexing to me, because whether you are backing in or backing out, you are backing one of the directions no matter what. Any supposed danger from backing into a spot is clearly also there when backing out of a spot instead, and it should be self-evident, even if you're not used to doing it, that the dangers are much worse when backing out into traffic or children than backing into a parking spot, when the worst you're going to do is bang into another car that isn't moving and you're going at a slow speed. You're not going to get slammed into by cross traffic. That's all.
Thank you. You win the prize for brevity tonight. Councillor Grossman.
Let me try to win the prize for brevity. I'm sweating thinking about trying to back into one of these parking spaces with my car full of my 3 screaming children, but I'm willing to try it.
Okay. I think Councillor Grossman beat you, Councillor Humphrey. And that, Councillor Laredo.
So having taken the temperature of the room, I sense that there is support for the trial. And as I said earlier, I certainly don't want to stand in the way of this proceeding forward. I think it's a good project overall, a very good project. So I'm prepared to call the question, but I will be docketing an item, and if anyone wants to join me, they're welcome to come back in 3, 4, 6 months in public facilities and get some information about this trial, including, as Councillor Oliver, I think, suggested, some actual metrics by which to judge it. And I really want to follow up on what Councillors Kelly and Gentile said as well, particularly Councillor Kelly, that we want to make sure that at that juncture, the councillors are heard as well. And we actually have some data and some information as to what's working and what's not working. So I'll be putting the docket item forward. If anyone wants to join me in signing on to that, that would be appreciated. And I'm ready to call the question, Madam President.
May I just ask Councillor Gentile if he had his hand up because he wanted to speak? And
I just want 30 seconds.
Councillor Laredo, is that all right with you?
Absolutely.
Okay, please, Councillor Gentile, go ahead.
So I thank the Chair of Public Facilities for her pledge that that she will get this information about accidents. I want to stress that I am specifically talking about the same exact area that Council Lucas was talking about earlier, in between Craft Street and Watertown Street. That's where the kids are, and that's what I'm interested in. And it sounds like Council Lucas has already done a lot of the work. And if I heard him correctly, there were, under the current circumstances, there were an average of 1 incident a year. And I believe of those 6 incidents, there was one that involved a bike possibly, but no pedestrians. I don't know how you get much safer than that. And that's what I think everybody's been talking about. Safety, it's not about convenience, it's about safety. So Council Leary, if you could please focus on that section that Council Lucas mentioned tonight, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
I have 2 folks that want to speak, Councillor Bowman and Councillor Leary.
All right, people, I just want to make sure everyone heard me and everybody understands. Safety is not just about what has happened, but it's about making our roads safer so people can use them in the ways that we need them to use them. We need more people to get on bikes. We need more people to feel comfortable walking down the road. You know, we need people to feel more comfortable if we're going to take away 26 parking spaces, feeling comfortable parking 3 blocks away and walking over. So it's not just about fixing the crashes that are there, but by transforming our roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leary.
Yes, I'm just gonna, I'll be very brief. There are I would like people to look at the Friday packet again. There was a lot of new information in there, including over 30 communities that do head and back in parking. And also, I'm not going to repeat the information that I had said about the crashes, but it's not 3 a year that are happening there. And I will get that information to everyone by the end of the week. I'm committed to getting that data, but I know that it's sometimes hard to try new things, but this is a very important project, and we can make changes, but I think we all can, what we're hearing from people who are hesitant, it's just that they haven't done it before. If you can parallel park, you can do everything else. And maybe there are people that can't parallel park. And I also want to mention the mayor and Jonathan Yeo had both mentioned another pedestrian bridge, and also improved parking, including permeable pavement, has been proposed for the other side of Cheesecake Brook. So there are opportunities for people that don't want to, that want other areas to park, and of course there's surrounding streets as well. But I think we had a good discussion on this, and I'm prepared to vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to add that I was involved with the dissolution of the Homer Street project, and the dissolution of that project had much more to do with the traffic flow that had been changed by that. The one-way north was causing terrible backups on Walnut Street, on Lowell Ave, and on Commonwealth Avenue. And it was also playing havoc with the folks on Cummings Road and North Street. And I think the dissolution of that project had much more to do with all of those problems than anything else. Okay, I think we're ready to call a question.
Councillor Baker. Councillor Bowman.
Aye.
Councillor Crossley.
Aye.
Councillor Danberg.
Aye.
Councillor Downs.
Aye.
Councillor Gentile.
Aye.
Councillor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councillor Grossman.
Aye.
Councillor Humphrey.
Aye.
Councillor Kalis.
Aye.
Councillor Kelly.
No.
Councillor Krinsman.
Aye.
Councillor Laredo.
Aye.
Councillor Leary.
Aye.
Councillor Lipoff.
Aye.
Councillor Lucas.
Aye.
Councillor Maliki.
Aye.
Councillor Markowitz. Councillor Noel.
Aye.
Councillor Norton. Councillor Oliver.
Aye.
Councillor Ryan.
Aye.
Councillor Wright. President Albright.
Aye.
Motion carries 21 yeas, 1 nay, 2 absent.
Thank you very much. Councillor Downs?
I would like to move to reconsider.
So Councillor Downs has asked for reconsideration on this project. That means if you want us to be able to continue to discuss this, you will vote aye. If you don't want to reconsider that this project is now settled, you'll vote no. Yes? Councilor Laredo?
You know, I understand the desire with difficult or close questions, but I personally don't think it's a good practice for us to be voting for reconsideration on virtually any item, particularly one that just passed 21 to 1, excuse me. So I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Downs, do you still want to consider it?
This is making use of a state grant. There is a time limit on when we get the money, and I would sleep better if I knew that it was definitely going to go forward.
Okay, so does everybody understand how to vote? Okay, all those in favor of, I guess we have to call the roll. All those in favor of reconsideration? I'll be quick.
Councillor Baker. Counselor Bowman,
No.
Counselor Crossley,
No.
Counselor Danberg,
No.
Counselor Downs,
No.
Counselor Gentile,
I'm outside the rail.
Counselor Greenberg,
No.
Counselor Grossman,
No.
Counselor Humphrey,
No.
Counselor Kalis, Counselor Kelly,
No.
Counselor Krinsman,
No.
Counselor Laredo,
No.
Counselor Leary,
No.
Counselor Lipoff,
No.
Counselor Lucas,
No.
Counselor Maliki, Counselor Maliki,
Sorry, I was muted. No.
thank you. Counselor Markowitz, Counselor Noel,
No.
Counselor Norton, Counselor Oliver,
No.
Counselor Ryan,
No.
Counselor Wright,
No.
President Albright.
No.
Motion fails. 0 yeas,
Thank you
21
very
nays.
much. Counselor Wright, do you have a motion
Well,
for
hold
us?
on.
Oh.
We have another second call item, the referral to the committee of the whole.
Thank you for reminding me. I'm sorry. We do have one more item. Counselor Grossman, could you tell us about 158-23?
Yes, item 158-23 on page 415. This is Councilors Albright, Grossman, Lipoff, and Markowitz requesting a discussion regarding the use of non-recurring revenue in Newton, requesting a comprehensive discussion with the mayor regarding all one-time funds regardless of source and possible upcoming requests to the council in order to have an appropriate context in which to discuss the two existing docket items, 125-23 and 127-23. The one-time money discussion should include free cash, overlay surplus, as well as any other possible one-time funding source. Purpose of this item is to make sure that we can properly discuss this subject matter collectively with the other subject matter before us as a committee of the whole, and to make sure that we're, all good from a docket and open meeting law and all those other standpoints. So I hope everybody will support sending this to the committee of the whole. Thanks.
Counselor Gentile, do you have your hand up for this?
Yes, I do. I just want to express my reservation about this increased tendency to refer everything to a committee of the whole. I understand the need for it on occasion, but I'm also a firm believer in our committee situation or our committee process, which I think serves us very well, on all items. And I guess maybe, I don't know why we have to do a committee of the whole unless it's because of those other two items that are docketed. So I guess I'll vote for it. I mean, it's going to pass anyway, but I would really ask people to give a little bit more thought and consideration to using our committee process. There's a reason, there's a timing schedule, and I think it served us well, and I wish that we would give it more of a chance of what we're doing lately. So that's my concern, and as I said, I'll probably end up voting for it, but I hope we don't see too many more of these in the near future.
Counselor Grossman?
Thank you, Councilor Gentile, and I can assure you we've given many, 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 many hours of consideration as to whether this should go before a committee of the whole or through our traditional committee process. I spoke about at least one of these other items at a previous meeting and why I and others felt a committee of the whole was appropriate, and it's particularly because we have some really large, impactful, very quickly moving financial items of great interest to the entire council and the public. And rather than have the timeline slip to a point where this is intermingled with a very complicated and difficult budget process, and we run out of time to explore our options and consider how we as a council might actually act and exercise our own authority, which I think this council has expressed increasing frustration with over the past years. This, to me, I won't put words in others' mouths, but there are others on here who obviously, agree with this standpoint. felt that this was a time that we might actually get a chance to air these concerns early enough to perhaps have some actual impact. That is the purpose. I hope that our discussion on Wednesday of these different items is productive. We'll see. This is what made the most sense to me for this.
Okay, is there anybody else that wants to speak before we vote?
Madam President, if I can quickly respond, I understand the reason, I get it. It's well-intentioned, but sometimes, committees of the whole don't end up being as expeditious as we would like. And, what's the meeting on Wednesday is a perfect example of that. We could have had the discussion regarding the retirement board issue. It could have taken place 10 days ago at a regularly scheduled meeting of finance. And 8 other members of the council could have attended, and, zoning and planning could have gotten itself up to speed. Like I was always told, when I would complain about some important items coming up in zoning and planning, and I had finance the same night, I was basically ignored and told to get up to speed. So committees of the whole don't always move things along as quickly as we would like either. So again, I'm not trying to get into a huge deal about it. I'm just expressing the fact that I think we're doing this too much, and I think that we should be more reliant on our committee process. And I appreciate the feedback.
Councilor Grossman.
Last point I'll make, I'm not going to get into an argument about it, is just to clarify something factual. We couldn't have taken it up in finance 10 days ago because the administration did not agree to show up prior to the budget being presented. So the earliest possible date we could arrive at was Wednesday.
That's
it.
The request
Not
to
recognized
us,
to speak.
Councilor Gentile, I think we don't need to go back and forth. You have made your point, and
No, I haven't made my point. I want to make a
haven't?
factual point, Madam President.
Okay, go ahead.
Point of privilege. What are we doing?
We're apparently discussing whether we're going to vote for this item or not.
This chamber feels out of order.
I haven't used my 3 minutes.
Councilor Gentile, please go on.
The COLA request came from the retirement board, didn't come from the administration. We could have started the discussion at our last finance meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we're ready to vote.
Counselor Baker. Counselor Bowman.
Aye.
Counselor Crossley.
Aye.
Counselor Danberg. Counselor Danberg.
Aye.
Counselor Downs.
Aye.
Counselor Gentile.
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg.
Aye.
Counselor Grossman.
Aye.
Counselor Humphrey.
Aye.
Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Krinsman. Counselor Laredo.
Aye.
Counselor Leary.
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
Aye.
Counselor Maliki.
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz. Counselor Noel.
Aye.
Counselor Norton. Counselor Oliver.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
President Albright.
Aye.
Motion carries 22 yeas, 0 nays.
Counselor Kalis.
I just want to say budget books are right out that door. Motion to adjourn. Sorry, Pam.
Okay, thank you very much.